Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to take a look at the Week 5 Monday Night Football Showdown slate. We got a Monday night game between the Browns and the 49ers. We're going to take a look at some of my favorite plays for this showdown slate, talk about who I like on DraftKings, who I'm going to be targeting at the top. If there's value plays I like, I'll be sure to hit on some of those. I'll let you guys know who I'm going to at captain, who I feel like is going to be my highest owned captain, and just how I'm approaching this showdown slate. Before we do get started, I would definitely appreciate it if you would drop a like on this video. Feel free to let me know down in the comments who are some of your favorite plays for this showdown slate. Who's going to be your top captain? Who's the guy that you're trying to pay up for at the captain spot? Also, make sure you subscribe and click the bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. A lot of you that watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel, so make sure you click that subscribe button, click the bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. But let's go ahead and start off with my favorite play at the top of this showdown slate. Not really going out on a limb. I definitely want to try and pay up for Odell Beckham. He's $15,600 if you want to play him in your captain. He is $10,400 if you want to play him in your flex. So anytime there's a showdown slate with the Browns on it, Odell Beckham's a guy that I just try and pay up for as much as possible. He's one of the highest upside receivers in the league. He hasn't really had any big games this year. He did have a big game week 2 against the Jets. I think he went for like 31 DraftKings points. Ever since that game, though, Beckham's just kind of been mediocre. He still is seeing a ton of volume, though, averaging just over 9 targets a game. I believe his target count's like 11, 10, 9, and 7, so he's getting plenty of targets. I like the matchup as well against the 49ers. There's a good chance that Richard Sherman is going to be on Odell Beckham, and if that's the case, I mean, Odell Beckham should just absolutely burn Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman is just not the same corner that he used to be. This is a great spot for OBJ. Definitely want to try and pay up for him at captain. We're going to talk about Nick Chubb in a second, who I also like quite a bit. In lineups where I do pay up for Beckham at captain, definitely want to pair him with Baker Mayfield, have that correlation. I really like OBJ here. I think I do slightly prefer Nick Chubb for just a few $100 less, but definitely going to have a ton of Odell Beckham Jr. lineups on this showdown slate. But yeah, I mentioned Nick Chubb. I really like Nick Chubb as a running back play. He's $15,300 as a captain. He's $10,200 if you want to use him in your flex. I feel like he's probably going to be the captain that I pay up for the most, or the captain that I have the most exposure to, just behind Odell Beckham. Nick Chubb just seeing a ton of volume right now, getting a massive workload. He's averaging just over, or I believe he's averaging right at 23 touches a game so far this season. So he's getting a ton of carries, and lately he has been seeing consistent work in the passing game. He's gotten at least 4 targets in every game so far this year, I believe. In week 3, he got 7 targets in that game. So he's getting consistent work in the passing game. It's a workhorse RB on a slate where there isn't much to pay up for besides Odell Beckham and Nick Chubb. Like, you obviously have the quarterbacks that you could pay up for. You have a guy like George Kittle, but once you get that past those 4 or 5 guys, there really isn't much to pay up for. So on a slate where we don't have much to pay up for, I'm going to try and fit in as much Nick Chubb and Odell Beckham into my lineups as possible. As we get later on in the video, we will talk about some cheap guys that I like that can make that possible. So Nick Chubb, a player I'm definitely trying to pay up for. He's coming off a monster game last week against the Ravens. He went for like 40 DraftKings points. I expect him to continue to play well. Expect the volume to continue to be there. I really like going to Nick Chubb at the top. But now let's talk about the quarterbacks. So between the 2 quarterbacks, I do prefer Jimmy Garoppolo here. Garoppolo is $14,700. If you want to use him as a captain, he's $9,800 if you want to play him in your flex. I'll more likely be using Garoppolo as a flex play. Rarely do I pay up for quarterbacks at captain, and I don't think I'm going to be doing that on this showdown slate. But I do like going to Garoppolo as a flex play at $9,800. Between the 2 quarterbacks, between him and Baker Mayfield, I do slightly prefer Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'm sure I'm going to have plenty of lineups where I have exposure to both quarterbacks. Neither quarterback in this game so far this year has been great to start off the season. Both quarterbacks have had pretty rough starts to the season. But if I can only play one of the quarterbacks, I do prefer to go to Jimmy G. Playing at home in a primetime game, I expect Garoppolo to play well. The Browns secondary still does remain banged up as well. Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams are both questionable to play right now as I'm recording this video. I'm recording it on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and both Ward and Williams are questionable. If they were to sit, it becomes a much easier matchup for some of the 49ers receivers, becomes a much easier matchup for Garoppolo. I do like going to him quite a bit as a quarterback play. Slightly prefer him over Mayfield, but I'm sure I'm going to have exposure to both guys. Going to have plenty of exposure to both. But now let's talk about the next guy that I like in that mid-range. I really like going to Jarvis Landry in that mid-range. He is $10,800 if you want to play him as a captain. He's $7,200 if you want to use him as a flex play. So although Jarvis Landry hasn't posted big numbers so far this year, aside from last week against the Ravens where he went for 10 catches and 167 yards, he is still seeing very consistent targets, although he hasn't posted any big games aside from last week. He's averaging just over 8 targets a game. We know when Baker Mayfield drops back to throw, he's looking to Odell Beckham, he's looking to Jarvis Landry. Those are the two guys that are going to catch his eye to start off with. We'll see guys like Ricky Seals-Jones get some targets. You'll see like maybe Rashad Higgins get a couple targets as well, but it's mostly going to be Landry and OBJ getting all the volume from Baker Mayfield. So I really like going to Landry. He's always a good play on DraftKings with the full PPR scoring. Landry runs a lot of low A-dot routes. He doesn't run deep down the field much. He runs a lot of quick slants, a lot of just in and out routes. He's going to catch probably 5-6 passes in this game. Usually you can pencil in Landry for at least like 9, 10, 11 DraftKings points just with how he runs his routes. So I do like going to Jarvis Landry quite a bit in that mid-range. I'll definitely have him in captain at some lineups because he's so cheap. He allows you to pay up for all the studs. Playing a captain at $10,800, that's going to allow you to get guys like Odell Beckham. It's going to allow you to pay up for Mayfield. It might even allow you to get Chubb in there as well. So I do like going to Landry quite a bit as a captain play and just as a mid-range sort of cheaper play. But we've talked about a lot of the expensive and mid-range plays. I do want to give you guys a couple value guys. I'm looking at a couple of cheap plays. So the first cheap player I like is Dante Pettis. He's $3,400. If you want to use him as your flex, mostly just going to be playing Pettis in the flex. I'll be dying on the Dante Pettis hill tonight. He's going to be the guy that I look to the most when I need some cheap value. I feel like I'm going to be playing a ton of Dante Pettis on this showdown slate. Honestly, don't know what his ownership's going to be. He is coming off a pretty nice game last week where he went for 4 catches, 20 yards, and a touchdown. I believe he finished with like 12 DraftKings points. So maybe people are going to look to Pettis because he's coming off a good game. But I think regardless, Pettis is a good play here. He's playing just as many snaps as Deebo Samuel. His workload's slowly starting to increase. There were some reports that Dante Pettis was dealing with a bit of an injury, but the 49ers bye week was week 4, so they did have a week off. I think that should help Pettis if he is a bit hobbled, if he is a bit injured right now. Getting a week off should definitely help him. And only $3,400. Looking for a cheap value play, I think he really stands out. He's going to play probably over 70% of the snaps. He's going to be on the field plenty. Should see anywhere from 5 to 7, 8 targets. So I really like Dante Pettis here. We're kind of looking for that Gerald Everett play. Like we saw Thursday night, Gerald Everett was a guy that went off for like 30 or 20 DraftKings points. I feel like there's going to be a cheap guy in this game that goes off, whether it's like Landry or Pettis or maybe even the next guy we'll talk about. Usually I usually prefer to play like value receivers and value tight ends over the kickers and over the defenses. I just rarely target kickers and defenses just because they don't give you that much upside. $3,400, I'm going to be playing a lot of Dante Pettis on this showdown slate as a cheap value. But the last guy we're going to talk about, another cheap value I like, is Ricky Seals-Jones. He is $2,800 if you want to use him as a cheap value flex play. He's another guy that stands out when I'm looking for some value below 4K, when I'm trying to find some cheap guys in my lineup to pair with some of the studs. He's been the clear replacement so far for David Njoku. Ever since Njoku got injured, Ricky Seals-Jones has been the clear tight end number 1 for the Browns. He is coming off a big game last week against the Ravens where he went for 3 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. I expect Baker to be looking for Ricky Seals-Jones, especially if they get down in the red zone. I think RSJ is going to be targeted quite a bit. I expect he's probably going to play a lot more snaps than Demetrius Harris. He's just been the more productive tight end so far for the Browns. He's the guy that they're going to use in pass down situations. He's the route runner. He's not going to be out there blocking much. Whenever RSJ is on the field, he's going to be running routes. He's going to be getting targets. So at only $2,800, I don't know if he gives you crazy upside. I doubt you're going to get like 20, 25 DK points from RSJ, but I could totally see him getting like 3 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown and being a good value at only $2,800. So I do like going to him quite a bit as a cheap value play. Him and Dante Pettis are 2 cheap guys I like if I'm looking for some value below 4K. But that's pretty much it, guys, for this showdown slate. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Thank you so much for watching. I do really appreciate it. Feel free to leave any comments, any questions down below in the comment section. If you want to leave any of your thoughts about this showdown slate, how you're going to be constructing your lineups, feel free to do that down below. Like I said at the beginning, make sure to leave down in the comments who's your top captain, who's the captain play that you're trying to pay up for, whether it's OBJ or Nick Chubb or one of the quarterbacks, or if you're going to Landry, or even if you like going with the cheap captain. Feel free to leave any comments, any questions down below in the comment section. make sure you drop a like, and you'll notice on the screen I have 2 videos coming up for you, or I have a video coming up that you can check out, my most recent video. Also, feel free to click my logo, click that logo to subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in the next one. Good luck tonight, guys. Peace.